Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. Excuse me for my voice, but this is what happened when you go and watch Lazio Atalanta. And if you're watching this podcast, you probably know what happened. So uh, we're gonna talk about Lazio Atalanta. Maybe we're gonna touch a little bit about Lecce Lazio, the game we didn't talk about in the previous podcast because, as usual, Alistair McKenzie is always on holiday, so wasn't available for Lecce Lazio. Hi, Alistair. How are you?
I'm good. I might be wrong here, but am I the one who was on a ski holiday, or was that you?
You were on ski holiday. What a coincidence. I hope you enjoyed.
Unbelievable fabrication,
Unbelievable.
Tia Vittorio. Yeah, good. Had a nice Christmas, and now, yeah, kind of. Well, yeah, it's been a nice period. I think it's still a bit strange to me, like having Serie A taking place over the Christmas period, but
Yeah.
it's been pretty good. I think considering the last time we spoke was kind of slightly depressing post Inter affair. The following 4 points have been pretty positive, all in all.
Yeah. Before talking about the Lazio game, um, we created a chat on our Patreon page. So for all our patrons, you can chat directly with us about the game, asking questions, interact with other Lazio fans. So, membership starts at just $2 a month. Patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. You will help us supporting us and keep going with the podcast. So if you want, please think about it. Alistair, the thing is, I arrived to this game yesterday with, let's not forget, Atalanta top of the table, unbeaten for, I don't know, last game they lost, I think it was end of August, something like that. And memory of what happened against Inter, Lazio losing 6-0. I was quite concerned. Let's hope we don't get another 6-0 result. But after the game, I was disappointed because we drew. I don't know. What did you have the same feeling at the end of the game and before the game? Were you concerned that Gasperini Atalanta would blow us out?
Yeah, well, I think it made me realize how much that game's still in my head because we started that match so well last night, and even then, after half an hour, going 1-0 up, playing brilliant football, very aggressive, um, very intense, but you're still thinking, okay, we actually played the first half an hour against Inter really well. So the back of my mind, I still didn't feel that kind of safe, I guess. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, of course, the performance was a lot more complete. And although Atalanta, I think a draw is probably about the right result, and most people are on the same page with that. That Atalanta improved a lot second half, but ultimately, if you're leading with 5 minutes to go, you're always going to be disappointed to not win the match. Even if you are playing a team that's top of the league, 11 wins in a row, and a point is a decent result. But yeah, there is a bit of frustration about how late it came.
Yeah. Most of all, not only the late goal Brescianini scored, was it 87 minutes, something like that, but as we waste so many opportunity, and it's strange in a certain way because if you remember with Sarri we had so few opportunities, and yesterday we hit the crossbar. Castellano has had two huge opportunity. Dia came in the second half, had another incredible opportunity. Dele Bashiru had a chance. I mean, uh, I think Baron is right saying if Dia scores and we go 2-0 up, the game is probably over and we will be here celebrating an incredible win. We're missing too many chances, Alison. It's good we are creating those chances, but you have to finalize, you have to finish those, right?
Yeah, and that's the difference, isn't it? I mean, that's kind of what he touched on, but that's the difference between this being a very good team and a great team. You know, the ability to seize your opportunities when they come, and that Inter game 2 weeks ago was the ultimate
Yeah.
lesson in that. Because I mean, we don't need to go back over that, but the fact they scored 6 goals off 7 shots shows you what a clinical team looks like. Um, then again, I mean, Lazio managed to get a good result against the best team in the league, first team to stop them for since September, without all these players through it, Noslin, Pedro, Patrick, Lazzari, all these injuries, and at a time when guys like Nuno Tavares and Dia, who you mentioned, aren't playing anywhere near the level they were a couple of months ago. And there would be, I was thinking this watching the game last night, there's so many coaches who would already be using this as an excuse and be talking about, look at what I've got to deal with, look at the lack of options in my squad, look at all the injuries. And Baroni is just endlessly positive. And I really like that about this guy. And I think that really helps them continue to get results because they're not complaining or feeling like victims or whatever. They're getting on with it. And the fact that he's been able to use the squad so well throughout the course of the season means that even with all those issues in the background or the bench being really light, they're still able to get a good result. So I think you have to take it all into context. And within that context, a 1-1 draw with Atalanta is not a bad result at all.
No, and we have to mention another thing. I know you were on holiday, so you didn't watch Lecce Lazio, but we won that game, and we
I
had
did.
we had one man. They were 1 man down for a half, and what was it, 10 minutes, even more, and we struggled. We struggled to score the decisive goal. We didn't play great football. Instead, against Atalanta, I mean, you said it. The first 70 minutes, probably, we were amazing. I don't remember a team putting so much under pressure Atalanta. It's surprising, Alistair, because against Lecce, we didn't have Vecino, but we pretty much had everybody else. Against Lecce, against Atalanta, sorry, as you were mentioning, we didn't have Vecino, we didn't have Pedro, we didn't have Nosli, we didn't have a lot of solution there, right? Then we lost Patrick before the game, etc. How do you explain that against Lecce we won playing badly, and against Atalanta we played probably one of the best games so far, right? This is another very important thing to mention.
Well, do you think the home and away thing is a big issue in terms
I
of
think so.
the difference between the performances? Not an issue for this team, but in the sense that going down to Lecce, they were kind of wounded from the Inter game. A lot was made of the fact that Lazio hadn't won down there for years.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly how many years, but a long time. And yeah, I think it's a difficult job because you know you're going to be up against a team that's wanting to frustrate you a bit. And I think they were probably a bit guilty of, once the red card came, just kind of switching off a bit and thinking, well, this is probably job done. And my God, that was a difficult one. Adam Marasic volley was not on my checklist of potential match-winning options for that game. But yeah, I think for the Atalanta game, it was very much an opportunity to right the wrongs of the Inter game more than Lecce was. Lecce was a case of we have to get 3 points at all costs. I think Atalanta was more a case of we need to apologize properly to the fans by putting in a performance that's worthy of us and by showing them that that's not what we are as a team, and we can show them how we can do it, because we spoke after the Inter game of how incredible the reaction was after losing 6-0, and there's still thousands of fans in the stands and they're applauding the team off and all of that.
Yeah.
And they had to earn that. You know, if it's fair enough saying that's incredible reaction from the fans, but that's obviously not going to last forever if you continue to make mistakes like that night. You need to prove that was a one-off, and the best way to prove that was following home game, league leaders go and deliver. And okay, they didn't quite get the win, but I think the reaction from the fans was similar from what I've read anyway of last night, still very much positive and applauding the team for their effort.
Alistair, I want to ask you this thing, and I ask also to our listeners, so comment it below the video if you're watching us on YouTube or on a social platform if you're following us. What's your take on Tati Castellanos' performance? Because, as I mentioned before, he missed 2 huge opportunities, but he fought, he created chances, he definitely helped the team. But from a number 9, you want goal as well. And he missed a couple of huge opportunities yesterday. So I don't know how to rate him. The performance he made yesterday do we say it was a positive game for Tati, Or do you think, number 9 has to score? If you miss those opportunities, it's not going to be sufficient to take a good grade. So I'm curious to listen to your point of view on Tati Castellanos.
Well, my sense is that what he is kind of sliding back to the Tati of last season, in the sense that there were plenty of games last season where you would be able to be positive about a lot of the stuff that he does, because I think off the ball he does work really hard. He does help link the team together. His movement's good. His hold-up play is good. But obviously last season the big issue was he wasn't scoring any goals. I'd really hoped that the fact that he started strongly this season would kind of unlock him. And I'm not talking about scoring 20, 25 goals, but at least getting a kind of consistency where you can rely on him a bit more. There were, a couple of moments where he's a bit unlucky. I did feel like Dia could have kind of squared the ball to him for a tap-in at one point. So I think the good thing is, while Tati's struggling, they are spreading the goals around the team quite a lot. I'm sure we'll get on to Deli Bashiru, but yeah, I think it is what it is, in the sense that it's nice to see that he's improved. He's definitely improved from last season, but I think the worry that we had that he himself can't lead the line with that kind of output of goals, I think we can already see that that's true. The thing is, does it really matter as much now? Because the team's built with that in mind. The team is built in a way to try and get different players into goal-scoring positions more often. So I don't think it necessarily is as important. Of course, we'd like to see him score more goals, but the feeling is that if you've got someone there who is linking things together and working as hard as he does, it will help the rest of the team find those spaces and those opportunities. I think if we're being optimistic about it, I don't know, how do you feel about him?
I agree on what you said, but when you are in front of the goalkeeper, you have to score. Not every single time, but at least 50, 60% of the time. And this is not happening with Tati. The chance he had in front of Kanezeki yesterday, you have to score it. Especially in big games, you're not going to have hundreds of opportunity. So that's the problem. Definitely, he had a great match. He helped the team a lot. He created spaces, etc. But from another, it depends. If your goal is to reach the top 4, you need a number 9 that scores between 15 and 20 goals. Otherwise, you're going to struggle, because you need another player who provide those goals. And Zaccagni is struggling a little bit. Chauna is not that player. So I think that's going to be our issue going forward if you want to compete to those top. If the goal is Europa League, then maybe you can make it even without a top scorer. But if the level is that, you need a 20 goal scorer, I think.
Well, I don't know. At the start of the season, the thing is that I think the unfortunate thing here is the timing, because at the start of the season, it felt like, okay, even if Tati's not going to hit those numbers, between him and Dia, you feel like between the two of them, they can get to it. They'll score enough goals collectively to take you to that level, or they can do. The problem at the moment is that Dia isn't delivering either, and Dia's stopped scoring goals, and his form for me is more concerning than Tati's form at the moment, in terms of the player he was a couple of months ago and the player he is at the moment. And his chance that he missed yesterday was far worse than anything Tati did.
Not sure about that, but
Do you not think so? The one in the second half, you think?
Yeah. I thought the first one Castellano had, he has to put it much better.
That wasn't easy. Either way, I think it doesn't help that they've both kind of started struggling at the same time, and it is kind of amazing that Lazio are continuing to get a decent run of results while both of those guys are in poor form.
Yeah, I don't agree on both players are struggling. I thought Castellano is still playing well, while Dia's form has dipped massively. I think all after that malaria thing, Dia had problems. We never saw the Dia we had before that episode. I think that had a huge impact. But you mentioned Dele Bashiru. So we talked a lot already in this podcast about Lazio Inter. Do you think that Lazio Inter helped Marco Baroni in the sense that we didn't play a 4-2-3-1 yesterday. We played a 4-3-3 with Dele Bashiru not playing as trequartista, but as one of the three midfielder. I thought that had a huge impact in Lazio performance, which didn't happen against Inter when we play 4-2-3-1. Do you think against big team, especially with Dia not playing at his level, this is the best solution for us?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment it probably is, because Dele Bashiru is on an upward trajectory. That's a player who seems to be constantly getting better and learning his role in the team better. And also, he is clearly someone who's able, by being able to switch between those two positions, which he even did during the game against Atalanta. It gives that level of flexibility. So that's really helpful. And I think it's great credit to Baroni as well, because I was thinking last night that he strikes me as exactly the kind of player who could have been lost at Lazio in years gone by. You know, the kind of guy who comes and finds it difficult to adapt to begin with, and then your chance is gone. You know, there's been loads of these players who've you maybe get with under Inzaghi or Sarri or whenever the team wasn't rotated effectively, and there's the starting guys are so hard to get some game time in front of them. And there have been loads of these players over the years. And Dele Bashiru, thanks to the way that Baroni's managed his game time, I think, and thanks to the way he's kind of protected him at times by not picking him and being patient with him when he's played badly, which has happened, being patient with him when he's tried to use him in a new role and it didn't really work to begin with, and all these things. And I think there's still a long way to go. I don't think he's by far the finished article yet, but he's definitely got a lot better, and that means that you're able to have this other alternative, which at the moment, considering the way Dia is playing, does seem like the best one for me.
I think he has a huge potential. He's physical. He has great ball skills. He's a very interesting player. But I thought, and I don't know if you agree with me, that in the second half, when we started struggling, he should have gone there when Provedel was kicking the ball long, with his body, try to win those challenges instead of waiting for Isaacsen to go there and grab the ball. I mean, he's much bigger and taller than Isaacsen. He should be trying to win those air balls, etc. He needs to be a little bit more like Milinkovic Savic, that wanted the ball in critical situation. I thought I don't want to say he ran away. He tried to, hide from the pressure in those key moments. But I think a player like him with his skills, he should be our main target in those critical moments. When we play long ball and with Tati that was finished, Zaccagni is not that type of player. He should be more in the center of our game, trying to win those challenges and give us time to, rest, breathe, and maybe move the ball a little bit higher on the pitch and give our defense some breathe. Do you agree?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. But I think that's probably part of this, what I was saying about how he has been used in different positions, and he's during games even being moved between, playing as a kind of a mezzala and playing as a trequartista, and getting up there to support the striker or coming back to help the midfield a bit more. And perhaps it's kind of one of these how best to use him and his qualities. But I mean, Milinkovic Savic was kind of unique with that in the way that he was such a pressure reliever as a target. If you were ever under pressure, you could basically thump the ball, 100 meters up the pitch, and he'd just take it down on his chest. So I don't think we can expect him to do that kind of thing. But yeah, possibly that's an area for improvement. But the fact that he made the run, took the goal so well, that in itself was really good to see. Also, I've seen this thing going around quite a few times now about how Lazio have now got 6 players with over 3 goals in all competitions this season, which no other team in Italy has managed. So yeah, it's just another way of kind of exemplifying this thing of how the team is managing to find goals from all over the pitch. And it was almost a surprise that he's one of those guys, because it still doesn't feel like he's played loads of football. I think he has got quite a good amount of games now, but it still feels like he's quite new to me. So
Yeah.
it's a good return. 4 goals.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, he's probably one of the biggest talent we have in this roster. I think he can grow a lot. Um, we mentioned Delibashiru. We didn't talk about Shauna. First, were you surprised to see him starting instead of Isaacson? And second, how do you rate his performance yesterday?
First, yes, because I didn't really see how he's earned it necessarily for such a big game anyway.
Yeah, he didn't play well against Lecce, to be honest, when he came in.
Yeah. And secondly, no, I find him really frustrating. Because I think the frustration is that you can see all those elements of the game are, he's a really interesting talent, and he's got plenty of pace and power, and he does have technique and stuff, but it just feels like his decision making is poor at times. And even in defensively, there's a couple of moments where he caused complete chaos just by, I don't really know what we was thinking. It was like, can I do a take on here or run this out, or like try and do something clever? And by the time he's kind of trying to think all those things through, he kind of run out of time and loses the ball. And I don't know, there's something there. I don't know if it's just because he's young and he's still not kind of worked everything out or worked out what kind of a player he is. Maybe he needs to simplify his game a bit more. Maybe Baroni needs to just give him very simple messages. But I don't know, whatever it is, it feels like we're struggling to see the best from him, because he's not. It's hard to pinpoint one thing that he's really good at so far. He's not really shown us what his super strength is. I'm kind of waiting for that moment.
Yeah, I thought you can see that he's talented. He's really a player that can, become a top players in Serie A. But I think he needs time to adapt, to improve, to learn, to read better the situation. Because I think 95% of the time he takes the wrong decision. And yesterday was frustrating because I think the first 10 minutes he played really well. And you think, wow, today he's focused. You can see it. First 2 touches, amazing. And then suddenly he started making mistakes. And it looks like he enters this tunnel and he's not able to get out of it. He made 2 incredible, unbelievable mistakes in defense. He passed the ball to the Atalanta player twice in the same action, close to a penalty box. That's, red flag all over the place. And he's fast, he's physical, he's technique. But it looks like when he enters the tunnel, it's finished. So, really interesting players. I don't understand why. No, I couldn't understand. Atalanta is a very physical team. So, he's more physical than Isaacson. But when he came in against Lecce last Sunday, he was terrible. He was dreadful. So it's true to be told that even Isaacson, when he came in yesterday, he was a disaster for me. But yeah, you can see he can really learn. He can really improve, but he needs time. And if you're fighting for the Champions League, it's very difficult to give these players time, right?
What did you think about Baroni's changes yesterday? Because there were a couple kind of wild card ones. Dia coming on the wing to begin with, and then Castrovilli, which I remember you asking about after the Inter game. This kind of 5-minute cameo for Castrovilli at the end of a big important game. I mean, what did you think of the decisions there?
Well, Dia, I can understand. Zaccagni was really finished. He was finished. You could see it was 5 minutes that he didn't have any more energy. And Delibashiru was playing good. So, you don't want to take off Delibashiru, move him around. So I think Dia on the winger could be a solution. But the problem is, Alistair, 2 things. The first one is, except Pellegrini, all the players that came from the bench didn't have the right attitude. I thought Dia was somewhere else. Isaacson was terrible, etc. The second one, we didn't have that many options, right? Patrick was out. We had Pellegrini as a winger, as a left back, Gigot as a central defender, Castrovilli was the only midfield available, and then you had Dia and Isaacson. So that was the substitution we had. Castrovilli, I think yesterday showed again he cannot play with his team, and the fact that Baroni put him as a left winger, which is not his position, is a clear sign that he doesn't trust him. And
do you think he's trying to keep him out of the way?
yeah, like, he's done. I need to change him because he's finished. But it's when you have an injured player and the central defender is injured, you say, okay, you go up there, you'll be like the number 9, and we put another one in defense so we can at least save and keep the draw. He was terrible. I think he touched the ball 4 times and he lost it every single time. He doesn't defend. He didn't keep the ball. He didn't do nothing at all. And another thing, I don't know if you noticed from the TV, he was ready 10 minutes before he came in. And Baroni said, no, wait, come here a little bit. I have to think better of this change, of this substitution. This shows you that Baroni doesn't trust him. And I don't think he doesn't trust him because, he hates him or something like that. He sees him every day and he knows that he's not ready. He's not able to play football.
And if that's the case, it's kind of surprising to me that he has then chosen to give him time against 2 of the most fast, furious, physical teams in the league, in Inter and Atalanta.
But you didn't have any other options. It's not that I didn't bring in Vecino and I choose Castrovilli. No, you didn't have anybody else. So or you bring in Furlanetto Mandas and you play it on the winger, or you have to play, even because, and this is something that I don't understand, to be honest. Again, we had like 5 players on the bench. You didn't call a single Primavera. Now, I understand you think they're not ready, etc. But don't you think that physically, mentally, and they're not better than Castrovilli? I mean, if a Primavera finally plays a minute in the first squad, I think he would give everything. And so he cannot be worse than this Castrovilli. I don't understand this thing, to be honest with you. I love Baroni. I thought he's doing an amazing job. But this thing that he doesn't call a Primavera on the bench is unbelievable.
What do you think about the Fazzini story that's emerged in the last 24 hours or so? I mean, quite an interesting one if there's legs to it, because that's it shows that I mean, for January and Lazio, it would be amazing. But just to sign any midfielder, let alone a talented young Italian one with Serie A experience.
Not only if the deal is real, it's simply amazing. It's like 2-year loan and you're going to pay it in 2 years' time. I mean, something's going wrong with Empoli, right? Because they are not cheap. They are very expensive. So if that's the deal, it's amazing. Obviously, we have to say something. Fazzini is not playing in this Empoli. So that's a question mark. Why Empoli is playing badly and he's not starting anymore? But we need someone there. Let's be honest. Vecino is out. Castrovilli is not able to play there. We need options. So definitely, if we sign Fazzini in January, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's kind of it seems too good to be true for Lazio in January.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna kind of reserve judgment on it until it happens, because we've been burned before when Lazio Mercato, before something happens. There's not much point in having the discussion until they're holding the scarf at Fiumicino and an official announcement has been made.
Alison, do you agree on the Rovella man of the match for the Lazio side? I mean, he played an unbelievable game, but Hila was astonishing. He's unbelievable. But even Guendouzi, he run for 95 minutes. He was everywhere. I mean, there are a lot of players that yesterday played really great football.
Yeah, I thought both centre backs and both midfielders were really good. Rovella is just another level. I mean, he does everything you want from a central midfielder, basically. I mean, his reading of the game is great. He'll make the tackles, the interceptions, the turnovers that you need. But also on the ball, he's so steady. His passing range is excellent. Got the assist for the goal. A couple more, good penetrating passes. the only thing that's really missing is goals from him, but it's not really his role in this team necessarily. So it's not really something you can particularly criticize him for. But otherwise, he's just such a complete player. Yeah, I thought Guendouzi was really good as well. I mean, it was always going to be a massively important part of this matchup, and a lot's always made again talking about Atalanta, about their style and how it's man for man, and it does mean that your individual battles in the pitch do count more, because you're always going to find more space, find more opportunity against them if you're winning your individual duels. And first half especially, they were brilliant. The pressing was really good first half as well. I mean, it was against Inter, like I was saying, that was one of the things I felt where they just completely fell apart. Was there was no structure to the way they were trying to push or not push, or be aggressive or not. And the Atalanta game, there was a real togetherness about it, and they put them under such pressure that it's a shame it didn't quite continue, the 90 minutes. But it does go to show that this team, even with all these injury problems and with some players out of form, collectively they have, in the space of the last 4 months, really created an identity as a team of how they want to play, and it's almost second nature to them now.
Alistair, can we say that the difference yesterday was the substitution the bench Atalanta had, the player they brought in, that changed the game? Otherwise, Lazio would have won it.
Yeah.
Not only because Brescianini scored, but the game changed when they made the substitution, while our subs didn't perform great at all.
Yeah. Kasunu and Cuadrado, I think, both made an impact as their half-time changes. And then obviously Zaniolo is involved setting up the goal, and Brescianini's the one who scores it. So, all across the pitch, I mean, that's kind of where they've improved most this season, really, is that their strength and depth is pretty incredible now. I knew Zaniolo would do something. It's so frustrating, but at least he didn't get the goal or the assist, but it was his invention, I guess. It was frustrating one to concede, because the defense was kind of where it had to be. They were all in position, and they just found a way through. But holding Atalanta to the 86th minute in itself is quite good. I mean, this happened a few weeks ago, covering the Roma Atalanta game, and it was basically when they rolled on the subs, same thing, Samardžić, Brescianini, and Zaniolo, and they turned the game around. So yeah, it's difficult to deal with, to be honest, and it's completely night and day compared to what Lazio were dealing with, as you've just outlined, in terms of the options available and Castrovilli and all of that. So we can only hope that the injuries start to clear soon, and people can get a bit more energy back in the legs, because it's not just the guys you're missing, it's that in their absence you're asking a lot more of the guys who are having to play every week or push more for every 90 minutes.
We mentioned Dia, but we should talk also about Nuno Tavares. I thought yesterday he didn't play a great game. I thought Pellegrini came in and played much better than Nuno Tavares. And unfortunately, I can see a huge dip in form of the Portuguese winger or left back. Did you see it as well, or do you think it's just Atalanta putting pressure?
Yeah, I think he probably was one of these guys who took everyone by surprise a little bit at the start of the season. How aggressive he was, how unchained he was, how direct he was. And teams, I think, are putting in measures to protect themselves from that a little bit more, because he definitely is quieter. He's still trying to do the same things. I think you can see him trying to make these runs, or trying to burst out from the back and so on, but he tends to get shut down a lot more quickly now than he used to. So the question is then, how complete a player can he be? Because we can't expect him to do these 90-meter runs every game. So if he's not going to be able to do that, he needs to be contributing in other ways, in the defensive phase or in the build up phase and these kind of things. And I thought yesterday when he won that in the defensive phase, he save was amazing. And I think that is a real option. Is there. It works. And if I'm one of the few left, probably in circulation, who is definitely easily. So gives another option to Baroni, I think, something to think about now.
Yeah, I thought Pellegrini could start in the game in the derby. I think that could be a solution. See how Nuno Tavares is playing. But before we wrap it up, Alistair, here in Rome, after the last 3 games, a lot of people are criticizing Providel. Now, I thought the first goal against the second goal, the one against Di Marco, Providel could have done better. But people criticizing Providel for the goal he conceded against Lecce and the performance he had yesterday, I think that's a little bit too much. I mean, probably it's not the same Providel we saw the first year at Lazio, but I don't think he's playing that bad. I mean, people are suggesting Mandas should be starting in Serie A. I think Providel is not playing that bad. Mandas is really interesting, and I want to see him playing more, but I think they're exaggerating criticizing Providel now.
Yeah, I mean, he set his own standards really high in his first season, and that amazing run of clean sheets, and is making. So maybe people are just expecting to see that every week now. The miracle saves, the reactions, all of that. I don't think he's making. I can't really remember him making huge blunders, massive mistakes. It's just things that you feel like he could have done better in certain moments, rather than him making huge mistakes. And the Inter game, anytime you lose 6-0, people are going to start looking at your goalkeeper, regardless of what happened, to be honest. And I thought actually against Atalanta, he had a pretty good game. He made one really good save on Lookman in the second half. And yeah, so I think he's still the number one. I think Mandas hasn't done enough to show us why he should overtake Providel, certainly. And yeah, I don't know. Hopefully he starts making a few more of those kind of wonder saves soon, but I wouldn't be in a rush to replace him, no.
No, I agree. Alistair, if you don't have any stats to bring in, I think we can wrap it up here. Thanks for everybody to listening to this podcast. I hope you had an incredible Christmas time if you celebrate Christmas. And we're going to be back after a game that's going to be played on the 5th. I don't remember against who we are playing, to be honest with you.
Don't want to talk about it, Vittorio.
No, never.
Yeah, well, that'll be an interesting start to the new year. So, yeah, maybe we can chat about that closer to the time. We'll see.
Yeah. The problem is we're not. Baroni said yesterday that probably Vecino, Pedro, and Nosley won't be able to play the next game. So again, we're gonna struggle to have to rotate the team. I would say. I mean, the one that played yesterday would be starting even in the derby, I think.
Yeah, it seems like it. And we're recording this today before Roma play tonight against Milan, so it did make sense to wait and see what happens there before we talk about it too much. But yes, I think it'll be a nerve-wracking one. It'll be an interesting one.
Yep.
Let's see how it goes. But yeah, I hope everyone has a happy new year when the moment comes. See you in 2025.
Take care, guys. We're gonna be back after the derby. Take care. Ciao, ciao.